Time to bring in our guest. Here to discuss this lawsuit, David Spady, California State Director for Americans for Prosperity. David, welcome to America's Forum.
Hey, glad to be with you.
We're glad to have you up early out there in the Pacific time zone. Tell me more about the lawsuit your organization has filed.
Well, ever since the IRS began operating as the Internal Retaliation Service, conservative groups have been justifiably worried about abuse of power by those who have access to information about donor amounts and things like that. So when the State Attorney General in California, Kamala Harris, demanded that Americans for Prosperity Foundation turn over their Form 990 and complete Schedule B, which includes the name, address, and donor level of everybody who's given to the foundation, we said, no, we're not going to comply with that because by law, we don't believe we have to. And that we've been operating in the state of California for 13 years and never had this request before. So it seemed very much arbitrary, very much on a whim. There was no hearing. There was no nothing filed as far as any kind of wrongdoing. So it was a very arbitrary thing. And we said we weren't going to comply with it. And her response was that we're going to fine your individual board members and levy heavy fines against them if you don't comply. So we said, no, we're going to turn around and sue you and say that you don't have that right under the Constitution, under our First Amendment rights as an organization to have private association and freedom of speech of our membership.
All right, David, I understand where you're coming from, but there are a lot of people when it comes to financing, and perhaps this is just simply a distinction on political campaigns. We know that political campaigns, there has to be disclosure of who is giving what to whom. This is something a little bit different. But what about the general notion, I believe it was Mr. Justice Brandeis who said sunlight is the best disinfectant, the notion that you disclose everything for public consumption. Why shouldn't that apply in this situation with your organization?
Well, in this particular case, we're talking about a 501c3. This is not the 501c4, which is an organization that can actually engage in lobbying activities and issue advocacy. This is purely an educational branch of Americans for Prosperity. It's the foundation. And so it operates very differently because we're not engaged in political activity, direct political activity with this particular organization. So if you're going to be treated like you would an organization that does, then you would have a different status. So it is arbitrary. It's very much on a whim and very much outside the bounds of what anybody is required to do that operates as a 501c3.
A minute 30 remains, David. What is the MO of the AG in this? The joke is that in every state, AG stands for aspiring governor. Is that part of what Kamala Harris is up to with her fight with you guys?
Well, I can't say what exactly her motivation is. It does seem to be politically motivated. It does seem to be a tactic of harassment against an organization she feels she may have some opposition with. So I don't know what her objectives are. I do know there's a lot of talk and rumors about her running for governor at some point. So that could be part of why she is doing what she's doing. But whatever it is, we're fighting back. We're pushing back. We're not going to allow this kind of politically motivated attack to intimidate us here in California.
David Spady of Americans for Prosperity, sir, we thank you again for getting up at this early hour there in the Pacific time zone and for filling us in on the particulars of the reasons for you filing this lawsuit. We hope you'll come back to update us as this controversy continues. Hope you can take time to do that. Would you please, sir?
Sure, I'd love to.
Great. Thanks so much, David Spady. You heard what David had to say, making the distinction between his organization and one that is founded for political reasons. What do you think is going on in California? Is it politics as usual or careerism on the part of Kamala Harris or opportunism? Why don't you tweet me your remarks at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum, and we'll be right back.